At the beginning of the 80s, George Clinton had lost all of his record contracts, and the band that he had started 25 years earlier had fallen apart. The rest of the P-Funk mob pursued solo careers, joined other bands, picked up session gigs, or simply dropped out of music. Bernie Worrell joined the Talking Heads for Stop Making Sense. Clinton retreated to his home outside Detroit. By now, the godfather of funk was also a grandfather. After all the years of touring and producing some of the most influential music of his era, George now spent most of his time playing video games. He was broke and in trouble with the IRS. He had hit bottom. As a means of escape, he started smoking crack.
I had never seen him that whacked, and I seen him pretty whacked, you know. But that was probably the deepest time I'd seen him.
Despite his drug problem, George got a contract with Capitol Records for the only act he had never signed before. Himself.
I had promised myself I would never do that, but it was something we had to do. Everybody else was in court, so I was the only one still free. So here we go, George Clinton. That was it.
Many of the P-Funk crew put aside their hard feelings and came back to work on the first George Clinton solo album.
It's such a family that there's like no, even if it was, say, a hassle, say, with money and with myself, I'm sure that it wouldn't be to the degree that they wouldn't come back, that people don't come back. It's not me, this is not me and my thing, this is their home. They made this along with me.
But George was still battling the crack pipe.
But still doing the same, you know, whatever the current, what they call it, trendy chemical substances was around, freebase and coke and whatever. It was all up into all of that.
George was gone. You know, he would come in just like the track Atomic Dog. You know, he just came in out of just left field and just went straight to the mic and laid the song down. No, nothing. I mean, you know, he didn't know where the beat was at. No, nothing. You know, because you know, and that's what was amazing about George. You know, he would always, no matter, you know, how the drugs affected him or something affected him outside or whatever at home, he would always come in and fit in.
After being written off by the music industry, Clinton came back with the #1 R&B single, Atomic Dog. Even without much support from his record label, the song had incredibly strong sales. The success of Atomic Dog reinvigorated the group, and George seemed to have conquered his addictions. He began to carry a rock of cocaine around with him to test his willpower.
If anything I did mess with the music, ain't no way in the world I was going to do it. I was so scared when Atomic Dog came out that I wasn't going to be able to do the shows, that I took, you know, stuff around me, and for the whole tour, never touched it, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to do the tour, and wasn't nothing going to get in the way of the music.
But the music business had changed in the 80s, and it was hard for an old dog like Clinton to adjust to the new tricks.
We have another thing we have to prove to everybody, that we really know what we're doing. So in the last 2 years, we rehearsed more than we've ever rehearsed. So now it's about that it's so organized that I usually cause the chaos now, just so I have something to do.
Clinton was dealing with record execs who didn't appreciate his methods any more than he liked theirs. Pretty soon, he was in financial straits again. In 1984, he filed for bankruptcy. In 1985, George was approached by the indie rock band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, to produce their second album.
Hey, check it out, y'all. Don't tell nobody. But I'm producing the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't know what they're going on. But they gave him $25,000. I'm gonna make a smash out of them suckers.
Being embraced by George Clinton from the first minute that we met him, it felt very kind of, not validating, but just euphoric that this guy, who was, you know, such a prolific force in the history of music, you know, in this century, one of the greatest, liked us.
It was fun. We had a blast. You know, we made a really funky record with one of the funkiest men that ever lived, and it was an amazing experience.
The critically acclaimed Freaky Styley introduced George to the indie rock audience. At the time, Clinton's main support was coming from the white rock world. In 1986, Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars appeared on Saturday Night Live and Late Night with David Letterman.
Oh, this calorie free and nutritious. The love of you has got me on a diet.
Despite the television exposure and good critical response to his new records, Clinton's sales were low. He was dropped from his contract with Capitol. In 1988, Clinton called up Prince and asked for help.
I just called him and told him, I said, I can't get no deals nowhere. And I told him, I said, look, why don't I cut something and I pee on it, send it to you, you pee on it and send it back. And that's what we did.
Prince signed Clinton to his Paisley Park label and released The Cinderella Theory in 1989. The album featured cameos from Chuck D and Flava Flav of Public Enemy. The advance from Paisley Park made a dent in George's $400,000 debt to the IRS. It looked like things were starting to turn around for Clinton. Regular sampling of P-Funk by rap and hip-hop artists also helped to pay the bills. MC Hammer and De La Soul had huge hits with songs based on P-Funk grooves. George's share of the sampling money was going directly to the IRS to keep him out of jail. But a lot of money was still going to Westbound Records, who claimed original ownership of the songs.
What all the homies saying?
I would say, well, where's my bucks? Which I'm still owed a lot for a lot of that. I was kind of pissed at first before I realized actually he was keeping the music and myself and us alive, be regenerated again.
For the kids to say, oh man, that bass line you did, that felt good. So it's like, wow, this is great, because when I was coming up, it was good because we were actually doing this stuff, but that was our generation coming up. But then a whole new generation to say, oh, you cool, man. That's a whole nother ballgame. That's better than getting paid. Yeah.
In 1990, Clinton appeared in a Burger King commercial.
There's a wild new breakfast at Burger King.
He was criticized for compromising his artistic integrity by selling fast food.
Please, let's not get crazy.
But George didn't have much of a choice.
That's all well and good if you can afford to look at it like that. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be one part at a time. Either you survive or you totally don't.
After almost 40 years in the music business, George Clinton was in a precarious position. He was revered as a legend and yet was treated like a newcomer who had to prove himself with each new record. Getting Prince to back him was both a blessing and a curse. It brought him back into the public eye, but he was caught up in Prince's legal battles with Warner Brothers, who distributed Paisley Park Records. As George always said, without humps, there would be no getting over. Clinton would have some pretty big humps to get over before he could have a smooth ride.